Dax wants a full name. I am not the op. Original post by you, Llama Llama Calamama in r name nerds. Content warnings. Adoption. Disliking one's given name. Less than. Mood spoilers. Excited and hopeful. Less than. Some notes from BORU op. I made some slight edits to posts for readability. And I have OOP's permission to post this here. The Name Nerds subreddit is a community for those interested in all things about people's names, including naming trends, how names sound together, name meanings and histories, etc. Most posts about naming someone involve babies. So this post was a nice little twist. Dax wants a full name, the 5th of April 2023. Our school-aged son, Dax, is constantly asked what his full, or real, name is. It's starting to wear on him and he wants to try out a name that feels more complete. To him, no shame on the name he has. It's just not working for him. For background, if it helps, we didn't choose his name. It was chosen by his bio parents, but he has been adopted after many years in kinship care with us. We're not planning any legal changes to his name yet. His siblings mostly have Gaeilge, Irish names. As do I. One brother has a slightly unusual biblical name, but not very uncommon in America where we live. One has a straightforward and common, technically biblical, name. My partner goes exclusively by a nickname unrelated to his legal name edit. Our last name, his, is fairly short and starts with a hard C. Any suggestions for a real name for Dax? Second edit. Dax is behind the post, driving the name change choice bus. So to speak, we'll read these together. I'm just the parent facilitator. Slightly smiling face. I'll let you know what he thinks. Third edit. I'm making a list for the boy for tomorrow. We'll try to get back to everyone and let you know what he chooses. He didn't care for Daxton, Daxon and Dakota is out for other reasons. Some hits so far have been the idea of AD first A middle, Declan, a few other Gaeilge names and something with a fada. Note from BORU op. A fada is an acute accent mark used to mark a long vowel in Gaeilge. Like mark on the O in Donald. Good shouts. Much appreciated. All. There were a lot of name suggestions in the over 600 comments on the original post. And OOP was very responsive. So I've included a number of them here. Comment. Might be worth a few questions for him first. Does he want a long version of his name? Is it because it feels nicknamey? Or other reason for lengthening it? I.e. Dexter, Dashiell, Daxton, Daxter or similar. Does he want to rename himself because Dax doesn't feel him? So something unrelated. Does he want you to name him? To have the name you would have given him? Or another random reason? Identifying the why might help you find the right fit for him. OP's reply. Very thoughtful, thanks. We've been talking about it a lot recently. He essentially feels like it's too nicknamey. He's a preteen, so not the most elaborative communicator, but the general idea is that he wants something more formal, grown up. Without a complete renaming, that fits a little better with more of his siblings and feels more complete to him. He wants to choose, but wants help with it. Although I'm mostly getting eye-rolling at the moment. But that's just how it goes sometimes. Reply to op. That's actually more info from him than most preteens. I've got 3 boys. Unless it's Pokemon, it's like pulling teeth sometimes. OP's reply. Yeah, this did take several weeks to torture out of him. I did learn a lot about motorcycles in the meanwhile. Comment. The only Dax I've know is short for Daxton. So that was my first thought. Maddox would also work pretty well too. It's cool that you're talking and helping your son like this. I know a lot of parents that wouldn't even entertain the thought. OP's reply. Thanks. As far as I figure, he's the one who has to be called it. It doesn't much matter to me. Mostly want him to be happy. He has enough hard stuff in life without a fight over a name. Unfortunately, the preteen in question nixed Daxton, which was also my initial suggestion. He said it sounded too much like the breed of dog Dachshund. Comment: I always thought the name Maddox was badass, but also suggest Braddocks, which I think is pretty cool too. I have to give it to the Gen Z kids, they have really normalized changing your name. OP's reply: I'm always impressed by the openness of many kids to change. Came from a time that was very different, but a lot of us old ones could learn a bit from them. Comment: does he have a middle name? Maybe he could go by that or just say Dax as a middle name. OP's reply: nope, no middle name. He's Dax C. Comment: you could always choose two middle names and make the initials spell Dax. For example, Declan Andrew Xavier last name could go by Dax. OP's reply: thanks. He likes the idea. He has no middle name currently, so that makes it somewhat simple. Comment: replying to the above comment, heck, their last name is a C name. They could even just pick a middle name and get Dax from Dak. OP's reply: thanks. He likes that idea a lot. Comment: I think Daniel would make a nice full name for Dax. Dax obviously is not an intuitive nickname for Daniel, but it's very nicknamey, so it works. I can appreciate why you aren't thinking of a legal name change at this point, especially if you're kin with the bio parents and still have contact with them and other family members that know the history. But maybe you might want to have some conversations about whether he wants to change it. Not necessarily to stop being Dax, but does he, perhaps, want to change to a full name and be called Dax as his nickname? So he could then be able to have an answer when he's asked what his full name is. If he tries a name out and likes it, you could investigate changing it then. It could even be something like he legally changes to first name Dax middle name, if he has one, your last name. OP's reply: thanks. It's on the list, he just wants something a little more formal. He finds Dax too nicknamey for his full name. He's driving the bus on this one. For sure. We don't mind him doing a legal name change, we're just encouraging him to try on a new name for a little while before committing. Comment: replying to the above comment, I like this also because Dax is an English name with roots through Old English, Old French, ultimately to Latin, dux, for leader. https www.google.com/amp/s/www.houseofnames.com/amp/daxfamilycrest of Hebrew origin, has an Irish equivalent in Donal, which I believe was probably translated into Gaelic sometime after Christianity spread across Europe. But I have not done that much research on it. Daniel is an anglicized spelling of the Gaelic name Donal, or Donal, is a common Irish royal name, with one of the most recent, famous possibly being Donal O'Connell. Daniel O'Connell, the Liberator, a 19th-century Irish Catholic politician who made a life's work of opposing the English and securing Catholic emancipation. https www.gaelicmatters.com/gaelicnames.html https en.wikipedia.org/wiki/Daniel O%27 Connell. Also some other pretty cool King Daniels in Irish history to continue the Irish Gaelic name theme in your family if your son chose it. Edit. A couple of commenters pointed out the misleading information I initially had in the comment regarding the origin of the name Daniel. OP's reply: thanks. He likes the idea of having a fada in his name. Most of the family does. One of my brothers is a Donal. Dax is not sure about if he wants to share a name, but they're on the list. Comment: just hopping on here with a few more suggestions. I'm Irish and over here Desi, Dex would be fairly common nicknames for Declan, so somewhat similar to Dax. Additionally, the names Dara, or Dara, Dyra, and Darak, Darak, might appeal. OP's reply, I'm from Ni, so he gets Daxi, Daxi boy constantly. He's already a brother Dyra and Dathi, so it's a bit tighter. Declan was a frontrunner when he went to bed. Comment, Dathi. Pronounced, Dahi. It's Irish and very common here. Ada, the closest English approximation is David. OP's reply, we have a large very Irish family, so unfortunately Dathi and Dyra are taken. He really wants a fada in his name though. Comment, so there's the actor Dax Shepard who is just Dax. Agree that the Daxon variants sound like Dachshund, especially when people commonly mispronounced it. Lol. I like Dashiell, which is a cool old-fashioned name, although I can imagine it mighty also get mispronounced. OP's reply, thanks. Name mispronunciation isn't too big of an issue for us. We have very Irish names for the most part, so it's just a part of life. Comment, I feel like most names with D, A and XK could probably work. Devereaux, Derek, Dakota, Doc Stax. I've also heard of Daxton, but I'm personally not a fan. OP's reply, thanks. He nixed Daxton and Dakota is geographically unfortunate for us. Derek was a maybe, and Derek was too similar to one of his brothers. Comment, there's several Star Trek characters named Dax. Associated. Usable-ish. First names include Tobin. https en.wikipedia.org/wiki/Dax. Star Trek. This may possibly be of interest in case the kiddo is into sci-fi. OP's reply, thanks for the idea. The kid in question is a gearhead. All things that go vroom. He doesn't have much Star Trek knowledge. Comment, so in Australia, it's very common to shorten names with a middle R sound to end in Z. For example, Lauren Lowe's, Karen Kaz, Barry Baz, etc. So for ending up on Dax, my mind immediately goes to names starting with Dar, for the same kind of effect. How about Darren, Darius, Darcy, Dario, Daryl, Darby, Darnell? OP's reply, thanks. He liked the context a lot. It definitely opened up his options. Comment, we call pants trousers Dax in Australia, and to Dak, someone is to pants them. Declan is a lovely Irish name. OP's reply, cheers. Declan was a favorite when he went to bed. I'm sure he'll enjoy the Australian slang info too. #update. Dax wants a full name, the 13th of April 2023. Hi friends. This'll be a long post, but the update is at the top. Hope this is okay. So, last week, I posted about my preteen, school-aged son, Dax, who wasn't happy with his birth name. Details further down the page. After lots of helpful and interesting suggestions from all of you, Dax has decided on 2 names he is going to try out for a while. Drumroll please. Daniel Oddhand C. Declan Alexander C. Well done. All. Good shouts. It'll be interesting to see how he feels in a couple months and what he decides to do. Background. Why not Dax? In Essentials, he felt like it wasn't a full, complete name, that it didn't feel like it belonged to him, and that he didn't feel like it gave him a sense of belonging to anything else. His siblings, the rest of his family, our family history or culture, and so on. He had no middle name, and no real connection to why his birth parents chose that name for him. We can't obtain that info either. He was also having to deal with people assuming it was a nickname. He wants to continue to use it as one, and constantly asking him what his full, or real, name was, which was both annoying and upsetting. The process. He's been talking to us, the parent facilitators and general eye roll inducers, and his therapist, counselor, about wanting to change or adjust his name for a while, and trying to find something that he felt was right for him. There's no immediate plan to make any legal changes to his name, but if it ends up he wants to, we're happy for him and will help. Dax is running the show on this one. We're just here to support him. Family info. We live in America. Our last name is short and starts with a hard C. Most of our large family has Gaeilge, very traditional Irish names. I'm an Irish emigrant. He does have one brother with an unusual, but not unheard of, biblical name and one with a common, technically biblical, name. My American husband goes exclusively by a nickname unrelated to his legal name. Dax is one of 3 boys who joined our family through kinship care, adoption. Some of your suggestions and his feelings. Decided to keep his first initial, D, Nixing. Maddox, Hendricks, Xavier, and several others. Decided to use Dak as initials, which would give you something like Dax. Dax suggestions. DX suggestions. D. Jackson. Too similar to family or already in use. Dyra, Donal, Dara, Darik, Dathy, David, Dean. Unsuitable for another specific reason. Dakota. Would be weird with where we live. Daxon, Daxton, Daxon and other variants. Sounds like the dog breed. Dashiell. Didn't want to be called Dash. Sounded funny with our surname. Dexter, Daxter, Daxel, Darcy, Dawson, Dirk, Drake, Devereaux, Dominic. Didn't care for, but no particular issue. David, Davin, Dallin, Dearmood, Darren, Darby, Darius, Darnell, Daryl, Dalton, Dallas, Denver, Dennis, Duncan, D'Artagnan, Desmond, Douglas, Devlin, liked but not a finalist. Derek, Damien, Donald. There were also a lot of comments on the update post. Daniel Alexander seems to be the favorite among commenters and lurkers in the sub. Note from BORUOP. I'm a Daniel Oddhan girly myself. And Oop says they were impressed with how thoughtful Dax was with the whole exercise. Some other comments that I thought were interesting. Comment. He was also having to deal with people assuming it was a nickname. He wants to continue to use it as one, and constantly asking him what his full, or real, name was. Which was both annoying and upsetting. Totally understandable. There's a popular school of thought on this sub of, name your kid the name you will be calling him or her on a daily basis, even if it is an obvious nickname. Well, in the real world 99.9% of people are going to assume Tom's first name is Thomas, or that Ben has a full name, or that Dax is a nickname for something longer. So on and so forth. The kid might not be bothered by it, but it probably will get old. OP's reply. In some ways, it's more about feeling like he has to tell everyone his life story all the time than just the name itself. He tried snappy comebacks, oh, it's short for Pradoxa, or whatever, for a while, but now he's just tired of it. I think there's definitely some names that do often work well in the technical diminutive, whether because of the name or the person, but, alas, not in this case. Comment. How do you pronounce Oddhan? OP's reply. Essentially I don accent dependent slightly, and sure I'm really bad at writing phonetics out. But Adon with a soft D, leaning towards TH, and a long, deep, round in from the fada, accent mark on the second with the emphasis on the second part. Don. Sometimes the ow leans toward ee, but he'll want it more I, or a. It's the Gaeilge, relative to Aiden in the English. Comment. I think I can speak for all of here when I say that we really love getting update posts. We don't get them a lot, so thank you. I'm really happy to hear that he's found some options to explore. As a side note, I just want to say that it seems like you are an amazing, attentive, respectful, understanding and empathetic parent. The whole way you've handled this is lovely to see. He's lucky to have you in his life. OP's reply: we appreciated the ideas so much. Aw, thanks. We try really hard. It's definitely not always perfect. We both came up a bit rough and with complicated relationships with our parents, and we just want better for the kids. They're great kids. So even when it's not easy, it's worth it for sure. Reminder: I am not the original poster. That would be you, Llama Llama Calamama, who seems lovely. Flaring as ongoing, as I hope we'll find out what Dax ultimately chooses in the coming months. 100% those birth parents named him after Star Trek's Dax. I completely get his desire for a more formal name. But from the other direction, my given name just has no suitable nicknames. It's impossible to shorten, but long enough and traditional enough that no one thinks it's wrong. I always felt like I missed out because I couldn't get a nickname out of my name. As an adopted person, I totally feel this. My name was also given to me by my birth parents and I hate it. Adoptees sometimes want to feel connected to the adopted family in other meaningful ways since we can't look or sound like them. There's a popular school of thought on this sub of, name your kid the name you will be calling him or her on a daily basis, even if it is an obvious nickname. This bugs me. It seems like going out of your way to control your kid's potential choices even as they get older. As the parent, you're already going to be able to make sure, Jake, to use an example someone else mentioned, is the name the kid answers to in childhood. But what? You want to make sure that it still has to be Jake when he's 40 and deciding what to put on his business cards as an oncologist or a judge. All the warm and happy feelings here. I hope Dax enjoys his chosen name. Oop also deserves a shout-out, not only for being a great parental unit, but also a great username. I totally get his desire to have a real, full name, especially one of his own choice. My birth name was a source of pain for me for 35 years. My first name was very punable and my last name was my father's. To say I have a strained relationship is an absolute lie. It implies we had a relationship at all. I just filed the name change earlier this week. My first name is a cuter respelling of my old first name. I like it for all the reasons I hated the last one. It doesn't make sense to anyone but me. My middle name is what my mother would have named me if I had been born a girl. And I have her maiden name as my last name. It honors who I was, who I could have been, and who I really am. Plus my initials are Bra, and that's just funny. This is great. I immediately assumed the last name was Cox, and if I'm right, I would also not want to be named Dax Cox. Here's hoping he loves his new names, and everyone in his life is supportive. This is one of the sweetest posts here. The oop is right. Gen Z is down with the name change. Both of my kids plan to drop biofathers. Not my idea. Dakota is geographically unfortunate for us. I have not stopped laughing at this line. Oop says later that the name Dakota would be weird given where they live, which is understandable. But I just can't wait to use "that's geographically unfortunate" in conversation. I remember being so impressed with this parent in the original post. They're really listening to and facilitating their kid. Glad to see the update. I'm terminally nerdy, so my mind immediately went to the male Dax names from DS9. Obsessed with the idea of a 13-year-old naming themselves D'Artagnan. Equally cool and hilarious, Emo Aramis works the best out of the four for a modern name. I went to school with a boy named Joey. Not Joseph. Joey. He once got sent to the principal's office because a substitute teacher wouldn't believe that his birth name was Joey. I completely understand Dax's perspective on this. Our daughter Jacqueline decided to adopt Jax as her nickname. But most people call her Jackie, which she also accepts. Like you, we have a surname beginning with a hard C. It didn't help that her fiancé had the family name Wilson and she didn't want to end up with everyone thinking Jackie Wilson said, when they got introduced. Bear in mind we are in the UK, so the singer wasn't that well known amongst her generation, but the song had charted when she was a teenager. Donasha, pronounced with a K sound, is a beautiful Irish name and I'm salty I missed the boat to pitch it first time round. Knew a kid whose full name was Jake and another whose full name was Emma. The Jacob, Emily, drove them nuts. And I'm sure it did Dax too. I'm happy he was able to find a name he liked that allowed him to keep Dax as a nickname. I'm glad they figured out a full name for Dax. The same thing happened when we adopted our child. They still go by the nickname that their bio mom named them, but they wanted a full name to go with it. This is the wholesome post I needed today. Doxosaurus. Probably dating myself here, but does anyone remember the episode of MASH when Hawkeye absolutely must know what BJ Honeycutt's name was? As someone who also goes by initials in lieu of a name, it resonated with me. Even now I'm asked what the initials stand for, which opens up all number of opportunities to make up all kinds of names. This is so lovely. Thank you for sharing. I love names. And I love thoughtful, supportive parents. And I love seeing parents who had a rough childhood become wonderful parents to kids who've had a rough childhood. I had to change my name for safety reasons, and used the opportunity to slightly change my first name. It's frankly pretty inconvenient, because people can't figure out my name on the first try. But oh well. Additionally, I chose a last name that was silly. Purposefully silly. I have a complicated relationship with my family on all sides, whereas they go on about being proud of our last name. So it gave me a bit of glee to purposefully ditch that name. Now I have a silly, complicated to explain name, but I like that it's different. And it's mine.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Ericast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.